We'll try it again.
Jeez.
We're going to try being live in your face.
I'm Perry. That's Remy. We're catching up. So, just to let you guys know.
His phone's kind of...
Yeah.
It's time for a new phone.
It's time for a new phone. And,
hi, baby.
Hey, Jonathan. The last probably 3 weeks we've been doing this, the phone has been crashing every time we started the show.
Just about.
And so...
Hey, Troy. Welcome.
Welcome, Yoda. And so we're... I'm going to need to get a new phone. So we'll be doing that shortly, and hopefully we won't have this problem. But in the meantime, before I spend that money, expect to see our thing crash from time to time. Who else is on? There's 4 people on. So we're going to go slow tonight, you guys, because I want to make sure that we're honoring everyone who's coming onto the show, and we've got a lot to talk about. Oh, look at that. Look at how beautiful we look. And not as a couple, Jonathan. I'm just talking about she looks beautiful, I look beautiful. Yeah.
He knows.
Dig that hole. I know he knows. I'm kind of being funny. Okay, so tonight we're going to be talking about your stories and beliefs about love. And I haven't told Remy this, but we're going to
a lot of these surprise moments.
I know. We just hardly have the time to get into it. And I kind of just thought about it while we were getting ready for the show. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my own stories about the stories that I've had about love and how those stories have affected the relationships that I've had in my life as a demonstration of how people's stories about love and about relationships create the reality that those stories create.
Right.
Suggesting, Hey, Ren. Suggesting that if you examine your stories, and by the way, just a quick plug, if you can't afford the $50 to get the Man's Guide to Finding Your Transgender Partner, you can simply buy the worksheets for $5. And the worksheets, as Remy has said many times before, can really help you identify the stories that you have about trans women and about relationships and about yourself. It's a lot better if you have the guide because it provides the context. But I'm just saying, if you want to extend the experience of what we're going to be talking about tonight, you can buy the guides or the worksheets for $5.
Hi, Bella. Don't you love?
That's a good one. That's a good one. Okay, so, but before we get into the main event, as always, we have
other shit to talk about.
And if you don't mind, I'd like to start with the fun shit first. Miss Pussy.
Oh, okay. Sure.
Did you see the video?
Yes, I did see the video.
Oh, girl! So
there's actually 2 articles.
Lay it down.
Well, no,
Yeah, go ahead.
We're going to be sharing 2 things in the
box. Oh, I'm supposed to put it in
here.
the box. You're right. You're right.
One is a music video by Miss Pussy.
It's awesome.
And then the other is an article about the music video by Miss Pussy.
Absolutely.
And Transgendered Rappers.
Yes. So here's...
Are you ready?
It's so good. This video is amazing. In terms of the rapping genre, I think she nails it on the head.
I think she did a really good
job.
Yeah,
I think so too. So. In fact, I couldn't tell she was trans to begin with. I thought it was just because, Troy and Jonathan, let's preach it. African-American women often wear wigs and extensions and snap-ons or whatever those things are called. Anyway.
Sometimes they do snap-on.
Okay. And so...
Can't get mad at it.
Exactly. And so it was not obvious to me that she was trans. So in addition to being a shit-hot rapper, I mean, her lyrics were down. She also passed as far as I was concerned. And so, notwithstanding the homophobia that exists in the rap genre, I think she has a really good shot of being a really good rapper.
Absolutely.
So, where was that other one that... oh, shoot. You know what? I don't... That's it right there. Okay. Hang on a second, guys. We're going to put this on the chat window, comments window. There's Miss Pussy. She rocks. Okay, there's the article. So, this article, by the way, is pretty in your face. Speaking of being in your face, this guy doesn't pull any punches about how timely it is for us to have a transgender rapper because there are transgender people showing up throughout society.
Absolutely.
We've got elected officials. We've got police officers. We've got leaders of electric utilities. We've got actresses. We've got models. We've got directors. That
franchise owners.
Very good. Oh, you Look at you. We're going to talk about that too, because I watched the show. I want you to know I watched the show.
Good.
Yes.
Welcome, Oscar.
Welcome, Oscar. So yeah, we have all these virtually every aspect of society. A trans woman coming out in virtually every aspect of society, or trans man, a transgender person, everywhere. And so now, it's like if there was a more difficult place for a transgender person to try to succeed, I think it would be in the rap industry.
It's definitely, I would imagine, yeah, the hip-hop industry is definitely going to be a harder one to break into, I think, in the mainstream eyes. Until
it happens. Exactly, Remy.
And then it's over. It's a wrap.
And so...
For real.
So, yeah, so I love this article because the guy was saying it's about time for us to have a transgender rapper. And in my opinion, the one he's throwing out, Miss Pussy, is like on fleek, as the young people say. You know that one?
Y'all ain't ready. I wasn't ready for that.
I got that from my stepdaughter.
She's on fleek.
Okay. Okay. So, by the way, that word comes... Never mind. It doesn't matter where it comes from. Okay.
It's from the community. That's all.
Is it?
Yeah. It's within the community, that's for sure.
I learned it from a transgender woman who was on our show. She used to say that.
It's in that music video.
Oh, it is. You're right.
Friends at work say it.
Do they really?
Yeah.
I love that.
Cisgendered people at work say it. So it's all over the world.
Okay. So that's it for that one.
Yes, thank you. Bella says LGBTQ rappers in general are coming into the light, and I'm here for it. I'm with you, girl, right? It's about time.
Who else, Bella? Who else is coming out this LGBTQ?
I'm sure Bella will give us a list.
Well, it's funny because you know who's LGBTQ who didn't acknowledge it for some time? Not Missy Elliott. Queen Latifah.
All right.
She's lesbian. In fact,
there was ever a question.
I dated a woman.
That's my girl. I love Queen Latifah.
Okay then. Okay. That's gonna be our little tagline for tonight. Okay. I dated a woman, a cisgender woman, who was sexually propositioned by Queen Latifah. Hey. Okay, so Bella, throw down. He's like, stop.
Right, shaking my head.
I know. So let's take a departure from our lineup and talk about that documentary, just as a promo.
Sure.
For the documentary. We're just sitting there looking silent. When we do that, we're reading the comments. Yeah, so Renee got
looking at my phone because I have other things prompted that I want to bring up.
Oh, good. Okay. So
he ain't ready.
So a couple
surprises for him.
Yes. So a couple weeks ago, Remy brought up this show called.
It's on Netflix. It's called Gender Revolution:
Yes.
Journey with Katie Couric,
which was actually a show produced by National Geographic. Mm-hmm. I did not know that till I saw the show.
I didn't realize, but it's made somewhere.
Yes.
But it's on Netflix.
Yes. And last week, Remy gave me the stink eye that I hadn't watched it by then.
Because we had talked about it the week before.
You're right. I'm not saying I was in the right or that you were in the wrong. You were right for giving me the stink eye. So then I went and watched it, and holy smokes, what a great show it is. I strongly encourage you guys to watch the show.
See?
Even if you think you know it all, even if, as they say, you're woke about transgender people, I bet there's something in there that you will learn that you didn't know before.
Well, I didn't know about some of those, there was more scientific study information in there that I realized were studies happening.
Me too.
And it sounds like there are more studies happening.
Yes.
Ongoing.
Yes. I particularly like that study where they collected a sample of people who came, I think they came out of the womb as unidentified in terms of their gender expression, what their genitals look like. And some
intersex.
Yes, intersex. And some of them, I think, got the surgery that confirmed that
that one about I know what you're talking about.
That some of them went and got the surgery that cleared up the ambiguousness, so it took them from intersex to either boy or girl, and then others did not. And what they discovered was 2 out of 3 or maybe 3 out of 4.
It was a dozen people born with a specific condition.
Yes.
Most of them were raised in one gender. I think it was as girls.
Yeah.
A few of them raised as boys.
Yeah.
When they got to a certain age, they were told about their medical history, and more than half of them,
way more than half,
went to the other direction.
Correct.
Than the opposite of what they had been raised. So say they'd been raised girls, they were like, no wonder this never felt right, doesn't make any sense to me.
Right.
It's because I'm a boy or whatever.
Yes.
And so it was really interesting.
It is interesting, and probably the preponderance of the outcome of this documentary for me was confirming that you cannot base a person's gender or their orientation, their sexuality, based on science. The most convincing, and whether people believe it or not, the most convincing testament of a person's gender or their sexuality is what those people feel about it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, what they feel about it. There was, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, what I really liked about how, and so some people might not understand at first why intersex is such a big part of this documentary, but I think it goes to show and to break down the concepts of gender and how people are born.
Yes.
And ambiguously, and these are medical terms that we're using, the ambiguous genitalia, or raised in one gender because of their ambiguous genitalia, and later to only find out that that's been wrong for them their whole life. They never felt right in that gender because internally don't identify that way. They can't feel that.
And even when the medical even when the medical community attempts to write the gender expression, the people, even after the surgery, the people still feel that way, and when they're emancipated, they tend to go back the other way. Like that man who was raised as a girl,
Brian. Mm-hmm.
Wow, you remember the name? Wow, I do. Check you out.
I rewatched the show.
Oh, look at you. That was a really, to me, that was a sad story because he had been altered in a way that did not conform with who he knew himself to be, and now he's trying to catch up.
The one that I think was the even sadder story is the one, it was the twin boys, and one had, so this is an older study. This is the justification into doing these kinds of operations on infants.
Yeah.
Right? So there was twin boys, and one's penis was mutilated in a botched circumcision. So they reconstructed him to female genitalia and raised him as a girl.
Yes.
Until he reached 14 and found out what his medical history was, and he opted to go to live as a boy because he didn't feel right living as a girl. And before the whole study could be finished, he committed suicide because it was all too much for him.
Yeah.
And I think that's, those are the sadder ones. But again, when we're looking at the positive part of a story, right? Those situations, those stories are what's going to spawn other people to do more research and to do other tests and studies. I think it's all for a purpose.
Yeah. Well, it's curious because it's curious, and I kind of bash on science because science gets it wrong so often. And this one study that was done by this one particular, I want to say he was an endocrinologist, but he might not have been. He might have been some other kind of scientist. Claimed that his procedure could nurturize a person into a specific gender. And it looked like the short-term data was supporting his contentions. And so the whole scientific community went along with him. Yeah, went along with him when all along, hey Devin, when all along the long-term evidence was proving him totally wrong.
Completely
wrong.
And then the individual, again, committed suicide and took their own life. So.
And meanwhile, there are other people who were disconfirming his arguments, even though science was saying, yeah, this guy's totally right. It's just such a, in some ways, such a tragedy. But at the same, like Remy's saying, if we didn't have that study coming out as being blatantly inaccurate, we wouldn't have the push to make it right.
Right.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That actually kind of spawns me into something that I found on Facebook. As we were sitting here getting ready to start the show. This came up in my feed, and it's somebody doing an actual study through Facebook. And it's, are you afraid of transgendered people? And it's, hi, I'm a 14-year-old transgender boy. The science fair time and science fair and the event kids in high school time. The purpose of this fair is to conduct an experiment using the scientific method and present it to the judges. This year, my project is about the stigma against transgender people. I want to collect data from people of all ages and study the reasons why some would fear a transgendered person. So I'm going to share this on my page.
Great. Why don't you put it on the Transgender?
Because it's a lot of work while I'm on the show, so I'll try to figure it out later. But I'm sharing it on my page right now because I'm not set up on
That's okay.
like you are.
You're good.
Anyway. So I'm sharing it. I think it's great.
Okay.
Who knows what it'll lead to, but it can lead to some great data. It
Yeah,
can lead to another great study.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, okay. So I strongly, Remy already has.
Whoa, we're in your face and we're loud.
I strongly encourage everybody who has not seen the National Geographic show to watch it because, like we just said, there's a lot of information that we didn't know that's included in this stuff, and I'm pretty sure that most of you will find at least one or two things that you didn't know about this whole situation interesting in this show.
Troy actually says, my mom grew up with an intersex woman who was forced to live as a male. She committed suicide at 17. It's very sad.
Wow. So it hits close to home for Troy.
Absolutely.
Wow. Shave my head. What's wrong with my head? My head already is shaved. I am due for a haircut. Boy, get off my head. Okay.
Yes, he did.
All right. So another.
What other articles do we have in the news?
So in this article, so this is relatively small. This is relatively small potatoes, but I just wanted to throw out that the second transgender recruit has signed up for service in the military. This was back in, I believe it was in March, but it might have been in February. And so I think some people may have thought that if transgender people could serve in the military, we'd have this rush of transgender people flooding the military, thereby driving up the cost of medical care. And in fact, what's happening is they're coming in ones and twos. But the great news is even those ones and twos people are being afforded the right to defend their country if they so choose to do. So that's pretty awesome.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty awesome.
So to you, Devin, we were talking about the show Gender Revolution, A Journey with Katie Couric. It's on, you can find it on Netflix. And Troy says, my mom's 77 years old. They were the same age when her friend committed suicide. So that's an old situation. Wow. And probably at a time when serious heavy pressures on an individual to live as their
whatever.
Intersex obviously was chosen for them gender.
Yeah. So I presume, Troy, that your mother was African American. Was her friend African American? Just curious. So the next item in the lineup is the one that Jonathan sent us. Thank you, Jonathan, for sending it to us. I didn't get a chance. Well, they didn't have it. The Voice. Can you give some background on The Voice? Because The
Voice is like American Idol.
Okay, there you go. So The Voice, which is
talent contest on TV.
Yeah, singing only, though, right?
I believe so.
Okay. So The Voice
I don't know. I don't watch TV like that.
Yeah, me neither. So The Voice is featuring its first transgender contestant. She's from the Philippines. And I don't know if you guys know this, but I've lived in the Philippines for a bit. And there are a lot of talented singers in that country. I don't know why. But a lot of people in that country have some vocal cords on themselves. And in fact, there was a Facebook video of a quadruplets that came onto American Idol in UK, and they kicked ass singing. But this trans woman who makes it into the show is the first trans woman ever to be on The Voice. And unfortunately, because of the way this show was promoted, we didn't get a chance to hear her performance. But I'm pretty sure that her voice sounds fantastic because everyone that I've seen who's actually performs semi-professionally from the Philippines has beautiful voices. So that's pretty cool too.
Absolutely. Hey, Kendall. Let's see. Jonathan says to Troy, hey, I often wonder how many men and women have been living decades being forced to live as someone that they are not because of medicine. Troy says that his mom's friend was Hispanic and that it's especially hard in the African-American communities.
Yeah.
Jonathan says, my mother shared a similar story with me about someone she grew up with.
Interesting.
There are a lot of beautiful trans women in the Philippines, too.
Yeah, that's true.
Absolutely.
That's true. It's interesting about what Remy what I think it was Jonathan or Troy who said that people live a long time not living their true selves.
Jonathan.
In the documentary we watched, you're introduced to an 80-something-year-old trans woman who was also a orthopedic surgeon who decided that she was going to get gender confirmation surgery.
Was she that old?
Yeah, that's what he said. That's what Marcy Bowers said, and then Katie went and visited that person.
Okay.
I know she looked young and spry, but yeah. And so she, at 80-something years old, is going to get her bottom surgery, which I think is pretty cool. So yeah, there are a lot of people who live, and that woman raised, I think it was 2 kids, and stayed married to her wife.
Her wife stayed married, yeah.
The whole time. It was really, really a touching story. Okay.
Something I want to share, another thing that was shared on my Facebook. My best friend Tiffany from back home shared this. The nation's first transgendered specific suicide hotline has been launched. That's what she said.
I thought there already were. Oh, maybe I'm thinking statewide. There's some statewide ones, not a national one. That's freaking great. That's great.
And so there's a phone number of 877-565-8860.
Say it again.
877-565-8860.
So if any of you, just so you guys know, here on the show today, we post these shows on our YouTube channel, and we get about 100, 200 people watching it there. So we don't know everyone that's watching this show. So if you're a trans person, or you're trans attracted or whatever, and you're thinking of committing suicide and want some counseling, you can go to this number, this federal?
The National Transgender Discrimination Survey completed the National Center for Transgender Equality and the National Gay and Lesbian Task Force forced that 41% of trans individuals surveyed had attempted suicide. The general population number is, at that time, was 1.6%. That's staggering. So it's a national, it's a new national, America's first transgender suicide hotline.
Great. So the number again is 877-565-8860. If you're contemplating committing suicide and you're trans, call these folks because we want to keep you around. Okay, the last article we wanted to share is this one. So some background on this. Correct me if I'm wrong because you recently read it. I read it a while ago. This person came out as trans, and she works at a funeral home. Mm-hmm. And one day she showed up dressed as a woman. I think she had come out before she did that. And the owner of the funeral home fired her because the person who owns the funeral home, I don't know if it's a man or a woman, or I don't remember, claimed that she would be distracting to grieving families. That was the claim. Mm. But I think the argument in the court was his religious beliefs conflicted with hiring or allowing someone like that in the funeral. Was the funeral home Christian by any chance?
I don't remember.
I don't remember either.
Remember that part. But either way, they have ruled.
Well, so the woman took them to court for false
being fired wrongly.
Yeah, thank you, being fired wrongly or unjustly, and I think it went to the Supreme Court. Or did it just go to the...
Well, it's been ruled law now, or whatever, that you cannot use religion to discriminate against someone's sexual gender or orientation or any of that.
Which I wonder if that applies to the... this is a little tangent, but I wonder if this now applies to that bakery situation where that store that makes cakes was unwilling to make a cake for a gay couple that was getting married. I wonder. Because their defense was, our religion does not support us supporting gay marriage, and so we're not going to make a cake for this gay couple.
But they probably are kind of covered under the refuse service.
Oh, we
reserve the right to refuse service.
Anyone, yeah.
To anyone.
That's a good point.
That's different than hiring someone and having them on your payroll.
That's right. And so this is really interesting. This is really interesting, you guys, because if you recall, back in January, or maybe it was in February, the Trump administration came out and said that they were going to back off. Troy, correct me if you know this. They were going to back off of having the status as transgender people included under workplace protection laws.
And says something about a bridal dress shop was just shut down over it.
Oh, interesting.
More details, girl.
Okay, yeah, more details we need. So the point is that the Trump administration it was claimed that the Trump administration was backing away from defending transgender people who are wrongly terminated, and yet the courts are now coming out in favor of supporting these folks who are wrongly terminated. And I think, again, this demonstrates how the Trump administration, being what it is, has actually created more positive results for the transgender community than the negative results that people were fearing it was going to create. As weird as that sounds.
Well, he's trying to stir a negative pot, and it's just bubbling up all kinds of goodness.
That's exactly right, Remy. That's a perfect analogy.
He's trying to start mess, but it's just conspiring people to do better and be better.
It's all backfiring.
They closed up shop instead of having to sell dresses to lesbian and trans women. Well, bye, bitches.
That's their option. Okay.
Right. Okay.
I love that phrase. I don't know why, but it's so cool. Okay. Get a snap. Okay.
I have no control, guys. I don't know what to say.
So that exhausts our story lineup. By the way, if you guys, Jonathan, thank you so much for sending The Voice news. If you guys have, Drielle used to send us news. I don't know what happened to her. But if you have news that you discover between the shows and you'd like us to cover it and give our commentary on it, please send us the link to the articles and we will be sure to cover them, assuming that they come in time for us to read them and get them on the lineup. So that's that. All right. So now let's talk about the main event. The main event, the title of the main event, Troy saying the courts are ruling that you cannot discriminate against trans people. They are a protected class. That's right.
That's right.
But it's interesting, Troy, because the Trump administration is trying to say the opposite, which is really, it's just in your face. It's in Trump's face.
It's interesting that it was ever a question.
Well, right.
Personally.
Well, right. Right.
It's all about how we read and interpret law.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right, Remy. That's exactly right. Yep. Okay, so you got to explore your beliefs about love. So, what is love?
Got to do it.
I have no control.
Yeah. Nope.
So what I
don't either.
Exactly.
So
we don't. You don't have control over yourself.
Not even.
Exactly. Same here. Oh my goodness. So what is love? Now, of course, you guys all know that we talk about your beliefs creating your reality, or your stories. A belief is nothing more than a story that you tell yourself so often that you forget that you have this story. It has become a belief, so it runs in the background. And so many people, myself included, have kind of fucked up stories about what it means to love. And for example, I used to think that
Don't judge me.
I'm not judging. I'm just like, where's that cracking coming from?
My joints. My bones.
I used to believe that love meant that I had to change myself in order for another person to love me. I also had a belief that in order for me to be in love, the person who I was focusing on my attention on, the object of my potential love, had to be a certain way. They had to look a certain way. In other words, I couldn't love that person unless that person met a certain level of standards.
I used to have a belief in love that if I loved someone enough, they could change.
Ooh, I think a lot of women have that belief or that story.
Yeah. A lot of us have that story.
Yeah. And so when it comes to relationships between cis and trans people, what are some of the stories that people can have that are debilitating? Because here's the thing. In relationships, the best relationships are the relationships that allow the two people in the relationship to be themselves.
They're having fun with wordplay here. Troy says, "What is love? Don't hurt me. Don't hurt me no more." And then Devin says, "Love is a battlefield."
Oh, geez. Well, that's a really good example of a story that can be disempowering.
Ooh, yeah.
Right?
You really believe that love is a battlefield?
And you're trying to...
Think about that right there. Hold on. Think about that just for a moment. If you, somewhere deep inside, your story is believing that love, being in love, being with someone in love, is a battlefield, what is that setting you up for? A lot of battle, like a lot of arguments, a lot of unhappy times, a lot of unpleasantness. That's a deep story.
I used to have a belief about love, and I got this from a book called Passionate Marriage, that described love as a forge where two people come together, and through the process of grading against one another, they end up in a broader perspective of relationship where they just basically accept each other for who they really are. But most people, when they go through that process, and the reason why the author explains the high divorce rate is because they don't make it to the promised land. They don't make it to the end. And so I have this belief that love is kind of like a battlefield, like Devin was saying. And so all of my relationships included frequent bouts of disagreement and argument, and judging and criticizing and all that kind of. In fact, my relationship with Bridget was this way until recently, where both Bridget and I decided, based on some coaching we were getting, that we were no longer going to criticize and judge one another. And as a result of that, our relationship has improved dramatically.
Devin says, I used to have a story that love was not for me. She says, let me tell you how alone that made me.
That's powerful.
And you know, again, that's what you say is love is not for me, right? Oh, love's not for me. But what's like that, like for me, like all I'm hearing is an underlying story that I don't, maybe you feel like I don't deserve love.
Boom.
Maybe no one can, or should love me.
Boom.
Right? I'm unworthy of love. Those are the deeper stories that run under something like that.
Okay. Now check this out, you guys. If you have that story, now I think all of you on the show who are commenting in the live segment will agree that the basis of the physical universe is love. It's all about love. And so if you have a story that says you're unlovable or that love is not for me, you're basically telling yourself that you are against the universe. And so, of course, when you're at that kind of odds with something as powerful and eternal as all that is, you're going to be receiving not only experiences that confirm that belief, but you're also going to be experiencing a lot of negative emotion. Because as we say, the negative emotion that you receive is an indicator of how well you're lined up with your inner being, which is striving to give you everything that you're wanting. And so if you have a feeling that you're unlovable or that love is not for me, you're creating a scenario where you're just bound to experience all kinds of negative experiences because the universe is just going to deliver that to you. That just makes me feel sad.
And that's not a good feeling.
It's not a good feeling. The good news about that is eventually you will come around and you'll realize that love is all you are. And all you want is love because that's what you are. And when you can express, and here it is, when you can express a story about love that is affirming and empowering for everyone, like an unconditional love, and unconditional love is nothing more than accepting all that is as what it is, then suddenly, or not suddenly because it's gradually you come into receiving and seeing that you are receiving everything that you're wanting, including that transgender partner that you're wanting.
Absolutely.
So, go ahead.
I was going to say that I saw a video on Facebook with Will Smith actually did this video.
Really?
And he was talking about how in a relationship, you can't expect someone to make you happy, nor can you expect to make someone else happy. You can only worry about, you can make someone laugh, you can make someone smile, you can make someone feel a moment of joy, but you can't make them happy and live in a happy way. You have to come to the party already happy. And he was saying this was something that he and Jada had to deal with at one point until they both realized that once they are happy individuals and they can come together and be happy together.
One of the challenges of being in love is a belief that the person you're in love with has all the answers to you feeling good. Where if the person you're with is not doing what makes you feel good, then something is wrong. And what's really going on there is that you are putting the responsibility of your happiness in your relationship and your partner's hands,
right? Which
is a totally disempowering place to be. And so when you feel the negative emotion of a person who's not behaving the way you think they should because they love you, when you're having that negative emotion, what that negative emotion is saying, you got love, you're looking for love in the wrong places.
Right.
You're looking for love looking for love. You're looking for love in that other person, and the only love that's enduring and unconditional for you is the love that your inner being has for you. And so, like what Remy said that Will Smith is saying, when you connect with your internal love and discover the unconditional love that your inner being has for you, you no longer have to depend on other people expressing love the way you think they should in order for you to be happy. And go ahead.
Right. Well, something else that he said is that, many of us hold this belief that when you get into a relationship, you become one. Right? Ugh. We join and become one. And no, that's never the case. That's not true. And as Jenna used to say, it's not 50-50 coming together to make a 100. It's 100-100.
Yeah.
You've got to come complete. I'm living a completely different personal life path and journey.
Always.
Always. And forever. And
yes.
It will always be that way. We can choose to walk hand in hand and to walk our individual paths together. But my life is my life and my path is my path. And they're not the same. We do not become one.
That's exactly.
You know what I mean?
Did Will Smith
Will Smith that?
Wow.
Yeah.
That's deep and accurate. Because you cannot be of service to another person until you yourself are whole. And if you're coming into a relationship thinking that that person is going to complement or complete what you are, then you're coming in unwhole. You're coming in halvesies or some deficient level of deficiency. So how does this apply to cis-trans relationships? So when you're out looking for that...
comments in a minute.
Oh, sure. Let's do it now. Because I was about to change the subject.
Okay, let's not, because we've got lots of them coming through.
Throw down.
Go back a few. Let's see. Going back just a little bit, Troy says, I fell out with the trans woman because she feels her brand of womanhood is more authentic because she never lived as a gay man.
Wait a minute. Can you say that again?
This was... I'm not sure to which comment it was made to, but it was something we were talking about just before this. He said, I just fell out with a trans woman because she feels her brand of womanhood is more authentic because she never lived as a gay man.
Does that make sense to you? I mean, he was clear, but it doesn't. Why would the relationship break up?
I don't know. I don't know.
What does it mean that she never lived? I mean, I understand what the words mean. She never lived as a gay man, but what does that mean relative to her being in a relationship with Troy?
I have no idea.
Troy,
who said that it had anything to do with him being in a relationship? He
their relationship fell out because of that.
We can have a falling. You don't have to be in a relationship to have a fallout. Friendships can have fallouts.
It doesn't. My point is that their relationship, no matter what characteristic it was, fell apart because of this statement.
That would be probably the. I'm not going to speculate.
I would love. We don't need to speculate. Let's ask Jonathan or Troy. Troy, can you expound on that statement? What does it mean that she never lived as a gay man? Okay, what's the next comment?
Devin. Let's see. Wait. William Jones is here. Hello, welcome. Long time no see.
Dude, you should be watching this show more often, dude. There's a lot of gold here.
Aw, baby, you're so sweet. Jonathan says, all I want is the 31st to get here because love is currently 2,810 miles away. Aww. Hi, Danny. Ren says, I feel that I have so much love to give, but don't have anybody to give it to. Give it to yourself.
Well, so we're probably going to spend the rest of the show responding to these comments because this is really important. So, Ren, when you say that, where is it? Where'd it go?
I don't know.
There it is. When I feel I have so much love to give, but don't have anybody to give it to. Okay, the first part of that statement is 100% accurate, but the second part is totally inaccurate because the person who will benefit most from the love that you have to give is yourself. Sorry, dear. And there are plenty of other people who you can give your love to just by giving your love to strangers and to people who are currently in your life. And here's the thing, Ren. When you start doing that, then you make room for the transgender partner that you're pining for to show up. Practice loving. That's a great way to encountering your trans partner. Okay.
So Devin says, I don't want to find love that is my other half. I want to love myself and I can be my own other half. Then look to love others. That is the work I am at the moment.
That's fantastic work. Good for you.
That's really great work.
She's like spot on.
I know.
She's spot on.
So proud of
do you guys talk in the background?
We do.
Awesome. Good job, Devin.
Troy says, they say when you look, one never finds. They also say that love is blind. Heavy D. There's lots of these happening through here too. I'm skipping over some of your choice words.
It's actually true, because when you're seeking, we talk about this all the time on the show. When you're looking for something, you're already in the story that the thing that you're wanting is not yours. And so seeking actually creates the absence of the thing you're wanting. So you shouldn't be seeking. You should just be happy, and the thing you want will show up.
He says, Ren says, I am a whole person looking for another whole person to share with.
That's really good. That's great.
Jimmy Tiller just, hello, welcome. Glad you're off the tower.
Hey, Jimmy. Welcome. While she's looking for a comment, I'm just going to throw a quick plug. Jimmy Tiller's and V's story is on YouTube. Check it out. The first half is there, and it's fantastic. They are so happy. It's just an awesome show to watch. And second half will probably be coming out later this week.
So to Troy responds to your question saying, she has a disdain for trans women who lived as gay men before their transition. We fell out because I think that's absurd. How dare you judge another woman's authenticity because you didn't walk the same path? That's my take.
Thanks for that clarification, Troy, and I totally get it. And it's so weird, you guys. Some of the most negative thinking about trans people comes from within the trans community. And that's a perfect example. I mean, who is that person to judge how other trans people have lived their lives before making a transition? It's just crazy. It's just crazy. But people are people.
Hi, Kendra. Welcome. Glad for joining us. And V as well. And
Welcome,
Kendra joins in with a great comment that's a belief in relationships.
Awesome.
She says, I can't find a man who wants a serious relationship. Just guys who want sex. It's disheartening.
So would you address...
remember that feeling all too well.
Address it, please, because this is really important, and this will help Kendra. Do you want to talk more about that belief, that story?
Well, I mean, it's a deep belief that many trans women hold or begin to hold, because maybe you don't start that way, but through experience, at least at first, right, where early transition, you don't know where to find guys that will be interested in girl in transition, so, you find your Craigslist, you find the dark clubs and bars and secret places and stuff like that, right? Shady people, shady places. And again, it's putting into that, like, where are you finding these guys, right? Are you finding them on Craigslist? Well, then that's all they're ever going to want is sex. You know what I mean? It's a strong belief that a lot of us have, but it's where you have to start. That's the belief that has to start changing. Is
that's
that
right.
Only guys want me for sex.
That's right. So can I add to that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So Kendra, listen to this. When you first started transitioning, my presumption, I don't know you, so I could be wrong here, but my presumption is when you first started transitioning, you already had adopted beliefs from other trans women that you know or that you watched on YouTube or what have you. And the stories that you inherited, consciously or otherwise, were already beginning to shape your reality. So when you started to go out and meet men and discovering these men who were this way, your complaint about the experience, that man, he just wanted me for sex, or whatever that complaint was, began to reinforce the momentum of the stories you had already inherited from whatever it is you experienced as you were beginning your transition or going through your transition. And so now the momentum of the story that the only men I can find are the ones that want me for sex is creating a reality that's very powerful because it's real for you.
It's bringing about men that only want sex.
Yes.
But you have to start changing that story, right? It starts by knowing that there is someone out there that will want you for more than there's lots of them. There's at least one.
Yes.
Right? You have to start there, that there's at least one that'll want you for more than sex.
Yes.
And then going out and living your life and stop looking for and participating in those negative and dark places, Stop replying to Craigslist ads. Like
yes.
That's my biggest problem with other trans girls is they blame it all on the men.
Yes.
But they're also doing the same thing.
Yes.
You're meeting in the same place, so why wouldn't you keep meeting the same people?
Yes, yes. And so...
Not saying that you are, Kendra, I'm just saying that in many of these types of situations, the ones we've come in contact with through our other show, these are many stories that we've heard before.
That's right. So Kendra, when you've done what Remy said and you start adopting this new story that feels like a fantasy to you, and then you try and go out and meet someone and that person just wants you for sex, that's the crucial moment, because in that crucial moment where you're experiencing what is that's consistent with your old story momentum, you need to bring the new story to your forefront of your consciousness and hold to the story. And if you do that over and over and over again, you begin to build a new momentum around that new story. And we promise you that over time, you'll stop meeting men who just want you for sex, and you'll start meeting the men that you really want, whatever that happens to be. We promise that will happen, but you've got to put in the effort. You've got to do the practice.
Well, and the work, it's your work. It's all practice for yourself. It's stop going to dating sites. Stop all that. Like, get your story right. You know, like Perry said before, if you don't want to get the guide, fine. Get the worksheets. They'll give you at least a jump start and something to start thinking about. And what's important in a relationship and what's not important in a relationship. What's important in the type of person I want to be with. What's important in the type of relationship I want to live next time or next year or in 10 years. Like maybe what I know I want eventually isn't what I'm ready for right now. Right? So you're going to meet people who match the story that you're telling right now. That's
Kendra, thank you so much for sharing that information. It added so much to our show. I really, really appreciate that. Want to read some more comments? Or should we?
One more. Okay. Devin says, I also find that those shows in the 90s that isn't a man or a mess as the stories of no man wants me or they only want me for sex stuff. Not quite sure if I understood what that meant.
Yeah, me neither.
That's okay.
It is okay. This is a great time to end the show.
Sure.
Thank you so much for watching, everybody. I've had a great time. I could tell. I think Remy had a good time.
Nah.
She's lying. So tune in next week. We'll have another great show. We promise. Next week we're going to be talking about 12. We're going to be talking about you got to learn to allow. Ooh, that's a good one. Relative to what Kendra just said, the next show is going to be all about what we just talked about with Kendra. So tune in next week, and we'll talk about how to actually take your news stories and make them your reality. Bye, everybody.
Ciao.